So you're going to unpack it. You're going to remove the roller tube and the fabric, and you're going to have your head box. Now, we've pre-installed our head box here. So we've mounted through the bracket on both ends, and we've side fitted this head box in between posts. So we'd pre-drill the head box. Now we supply all the fixings and fixtures for putting the awning together, but we don't supply the screws that you need to use to fix the awning to your timber, your brickwork, your concrete, your steel structure. Those are screws and fittings you'll need to supply at your end. The next thing we're going to do is fit the side channels. Now, we know this is 10 mil outer square. We're just going to fit the side channel to the posts, knowing they're out of square. I have already fitted my side channel on the right. I'll just quickly put up the side channel on the left. So I'm going to remove the floating guide, put that to the side, and you have your channel. Now the channel comes with a bottom cap and a top cap. Before I put that channel up, I'm just going to point out the top cap. Now, this top cap has a slide in it, which will help us align the floating guide. Okay? We have some adjustment there to hold the fabric and keep it taut. As we go through the process, you'll see why that's an important feature for us. These top caps are universal, left and right. If I'm fitting this on the left, I'm going to cut the back round plug off, leaving me one round plug here, which will actually locate into the bracket. There's a locator hole there. So there's two things that help us get the side channel in the right position located to the head box. The other thing we have here is we have two little wings on here. Now, depending on what side you use this bracket on, one of those wings will line up with a notch in the back of the head box. So again, we're going to leave the back one on and we're going to cut the front one off. If you don't cut the front one off, you'll have trouble getting to that little bolt there to tighten up our aligner. Now we've already done that in this instance here. We know it's the left-hand channel. We've cut one of our lugs off and we've cut the front tab off. I only need the back wing and the front lug. So we're just going to sit that up in there. We're lining up the lug and the lip on the back channel. Now, for my exercise here, I might need you to come and hold that for me, Trev, if you can. Just hold that channel for me. I'm only going to put one fixing screw in. So we've got our side channel fixed there. We're fixing it every 580 to 600 millimetre. You'll notice here we've got notches. So this channel comes pre-punched with notches every 580 millimetres. So we're saying at every 600 or every 580 millimetre interval, that's where we want a fixing point into your substrate. So if I was face fitting, I've got a pre-punched pilot hole for my screw, and I've got a notch which will help me secure the floating guide, which we'll get to shortly. But if I'm reveal fitting, I'm actually going to pre-drill my channel to suit the fixings that I'm using. So we pre-drill the channel, we come along, we use our fixings, we go into our timber, our brick, whatever we need to go into. So we've got that fitted securely there, okay? The next thing we're going to do is grab our roller tube of fabric and fit that up into the awning. Trev will grab that. This is a small awning. We always find the smaller awnings are harder to slide in. So this one's been up and down a couple of times. Hopefully will play nicely for us. Slide in. Now the idle end pin is something, just be mindful of that. The last thing you want to do with that idle end pin is have it fall inside the roller tube. It has a little black O-ring on it. And that O-ring is designed to sit around the shallow little ridge of that idle pin. And the deeper ridge is what will lock in to our bracket. Slide that up, pop that in. Very importantly, the R-clip. Now this is a security clip to make sure that awning cannot fall out, it can't come out. So that has to go in. Before we're going to do anything with this awning, rolling it up, rolling it down, put the R-clip in to keep it in a secure location. Goes in really easily. So the R-clip's in place. So awning's up here now, guys. Awning's up. R-clip's in place. Let's just make sure we've got the fabric, obviously, sitting within the groove in the top cap. Just pop it in like that and make sure it's sitting within that groove there. So that's up. It's secure. Side channel fixed. We know the side channel's out of square. We're going to get it squared up with our floating guide. So our floating guide, which is this fella here, the black floating guide. When you get the awning, on the bottom of your skin, you're going to see, obviously, the zip on the edge of the skin, but you're going to see a tail here. Now that tail is there for a reason. It's what you use to help guide the zip down into the floating guide. Don't cut it off. You need it to stay there. So that just gets fed down through the zip. Really easy when I hold it correctly. Come here. So I put that through there. I'm then sliding the floating guide up. Now, I want the floating guide, the top of it, to lock into my aligner at the top, which slides. So I can slide that aligner, line it up, and, sorry if my head's in the way for a split second there, get that onto that top cap aligner. Pop the floating guide in and just let it sit there at the bottom. Just going to put the other one in as well. Okay. At that point there, I've got the awning up, I've got the zip started to be fed into the actual floating guide. I would grab the crank handle, or with your remote if it's motorized. You want to cycle that awning down and up twice. You want to cycle it down and up twice. So, down, up, down, and up. So let's just presume I've done that all the way down, all the way up twice. The very next thing you're going to do is, I want to put a bit of tension here at the top, hold the top of my floating guide. Now, running it up and down a couple of times, just make sure the fabric's in the correct position on the roller tube. Actually gets the floating guide to be in the right position as well, and the fabric would then be sitting squarely. So, with a 7mm open end spanner, I'm going to put a little bit of pressure. Just hold that there like that. I'm actually going to nip up that little 7mm head bolt on the top of that aligner link. So it's holding the fabric. Then I'm going to go across to the other side and I'm going to do the same thing. Lost a bit of camera focus there, Trev. Not sure whether there's something we can do to reset that. Just give us a second, guys. I think, there we go. Camera had trouble focusing. I might have moved too fast, which doesn't happen very often. So we've put a bit of side tension at the top. We've put a bit of side tension at the top on the other side. The next thing we would do is we actually want to secure the floating guide at the bottom. So we would actually run the awning all the way down. Now, when we put the fixings into the floating guide, we actually want the base rail to be in line with where we're putting that fixing. So you can see we've got the notch at the bottom here, we've got a notch halfway up. So the recommendation is fixing in the floating guide at the bottom and at roughly the halfway point, depending on where the notching ends up being. So Down the bottom, we would drill a hole through the floating guide. In the midway point, we'd drill a hole through the floating guide. Now we use a 2.5mm drill, and we actually drill through the floating guide and also into the first part of the backing plate. But we don't want to drill too far through, because if this is fitted in reveal, in the instance where you might be fitting it like it is here, you don't want to see a hole in the back of the channel in that reveal situation. So we do start at the bottom, and then we bring one up to the middle. So I'm going to fit the one in the middle. Now we are going to play the installation video for this after the session. You can watch how we do it there as well. So I want to put one here. So we supply, 2 seconds, I just have the, we supply the specific screw that you need to use for this. It's exactly the right length to make sure we're going to go through the floating guide and through the first plate of the back channel, but not long enough to go all the way through it. So I've drilled a 2.5mm hole through the floating guide. With that drill, I've also drilled into the back plate. Then I get a 4mm drill, and I just open up that hole in the floating guide only to 4mm without drilling into the backing plate. I need the backing plate to maintain that 2.5mm hole, so the screw, when I put it in, will actually bite into it and hold. I'm just going to put one of the screws in place. Now, yes, we've actually fitted this awning before. We've done this before, so you didn't see me drill the holes. They were already there. But this is now holding the floating guide in that position. I'd then go across and do the one directly opposite that one on the other side. So I'm adding a little bit of tension each way. Now, because the floating guides should be sitting roughly where it needs to sit, I just held that and put a little bit of tension on it. This is a small awning. On a bigger awning, you can play and adjust the tension that you put on the awning. What I recommend, you've got the notch here that you're using to access the floating guide. The first hole that you drill through the floating guide in the back channel should either be at the bottom or at the top of that notch. That way, if it's not exactly in the right position, you've got plenty of room in that opening there to drill another hole. So don't just put it straight in the middle. This all gets covered anyway when we put the cover plate on. So what we've done there, we've now got side channels up, floating guide in place. We're just going to presume we fitted all of the screws in to give us that tautness in the fabric that we're looking for. Really, all that's left to do now is actually fit the cover plate. Cover plate now is a slide-on arrangement. It's not clip-on, clip-off. It's a slide-on, and it's very solid fixing. It's held in with a couple of little screws that go into the side, which lock into lugs on the top and bottom cap. This slides on, and they're actually very secure. So usually it's helpful to start with the awning all the way up. So I'm just going to put this awning all the way up. What angle camera, Trev, you want me to stand this side for here? I'm just going to slide on the side channel. So you can see there, I'm just starting to point it in. Make sure the top cap goes into it. Because I've done this 100 times and now it decides not to play nicely. There we go. It's in there. And I'm going to slide on that floating guide. And I have to just do it all the way down, slide. So that is fairly easy to slide on, fairly easy to slide off. Now, just to hold that slide on cover in place, I'm going to put a little screw at the top and a little screw at the bottom. pick up the right drill, and you can see I'm just going to put a little screw through the side, just locates into a lug that's part of that top cap. This is reveal fit, but it's only partial reveal fit. So you can see the head box is sticking out. I can actually access the front or the final front side fixing screw on the head box. So I can put this head box cover on, put in my last screw, and that head box is secure. If I couldn't do that, if this head box was fully in a recess or a reveal scenario, there are prefabricated lugs that are part of the end cap. We'll supply you the screws, little self-drilling screws that you would need to come through the bottom of the head box with and locate and lock them off, depending on whether you're using the open head box or the closed head box. As I said, you're going to use the closed head box in most circumstances. So we'll quickly put this up. Just pop in one of the screws just for... So I've put in the end mount screws. I can do the one on the other side. We're going to share a video with you now, and you can watch that.
The principal feature and benefit of the adjustable side channel is its ability to install in out-of-square situations. The adjustable side channel provides an out-of-square tolerance of 20 millimetres, 10 millimetres each side. It is still essential that you install the headbox level. Then install the side channels in line with the existing post or wall. There is no longer the need to pack out the channel to be square. Cycle the skin down and up 2 times so that the floating guide finds its true position. Leaving the skin in the down position, adjust the top alignment cap. This keeps the floating guide at the top in the correct position as determined when the skin was run down and up. Tighten to secure in the desired position. The channel is pre-punched with notches at 580mm intervals to enable the floating guide to be secured. Hold the floating guide under tension and drill through the floating guide and into the first surface of the channel. Do not drill right through the channel. 30mm screws are provided to secure the floating guide to the channel. We recommend a 4mm clearance hole be drilled through the floating guide. It is recommended that the first securing of the floating guide be done at the notching closest to the midway point of the channel. Additional securing points can be used if required. Securing the floating guide prevents excessive movement of the skin and provides a superior finish. The channel cover for the Evo STC with adjustable side channels slides into position as shown. Slide it into position from the top and work down. Secure the channel cover by inserting a screw top and bottom as shown. This will prevent the cover from dislodging in windy conditions. The removal of the channel cover is simply a reversal of the install process.
The video that you've just seen there was made prior to, I guess, one of our other recommendations coming into play. What you saw on the video was, pop a fixing through the floating guide halfway down, and often that will be all you need to do. We actually do now recommend you put one at the bottom and at least one in the middle. You can put others, and you can put one at every 580mm notch increment if you want, but bottom and middle is now recommended. The top's held in place by that aligner link when you tighten it up. So that won't always need to have that. Also, when Mike, our installer there, was installing that slide on front cover. He had it with the awning in the down position. I like to do it with the awning in the up position. It really works either way. It'll actually slide on in virtually any position.